that was Thomas if it was an animated film made by Disney in the 1940s. I hope you enjoyed that because that took a lot of effort. Now I'm gonna walk you through the process of making this. And just a warning, this is very nerdy stuff. This is gonna be a very nerdy explanation, technical. If you're not into that stuff, I mean, that's fine. But if you wanna hear my process and how I was able to achieve a somewhat accurate sounding Disney choir orchestra, feel free to take a listen. I wasn't planning to make more old cartoon music because I'm busy and I'm also very sick. But yeah, I've been busy with Musical Day, which is a movie that I'm making. This Thomas thing was a big improvement, so I wanted to share this. Mostly, I'm gonna be talking about the music, but I'll talk about the art first that you saw in the beginning. So the art is very simple. I just took the Thomas background that I found online. I used Thomas font, which is Rockwell. I also put the RKO logo over there, which is always shown in the title sequence of Disney animated movies from that era. And then I just slapped Red Giant's Retrograde plugin onto there. And Retrograde actually adds this noise effect, which I don't really want. Because if you look at Disney title sequences from that era, you can see that the grain doesn't really move. Like, these animated movies from this era are surprisingly clean. Now, I don't know if that's because the digitalization of these movies were fairly recent. But yeah, basically very simple. I'm not a visual artist at all, so I didn't want to take too long on this. So now let's talk about the music. I won't go too in-depth, but I'll make a separate video where I go very in-depth in my journey of learning the vintage old music style. Please comment if you want to see that. Firstly, I used FL Studio and I used East West Hollywood Orchestra. So the beginning of the music is very reminiscent of how, you know, all of those old Disney animated films begin. They start very grand with a choir over there. And then here, after that part, I just wanted to add some old cartoony stuff over here just because I really like the sound of those. So there's a lot of pauses here, which is not very usual for Disney intros actually, but you know, I just wanted to put it there just because. And then in the second half of the song, I instead of instrumental, I put the vocals in now. And then for the ending of the music, so there's that high. By the way, that note is really high. I'm surprised I was even able to hit that while I'm sick. Like, where is that? It's over here. Oh yeah, that's also one thing. These choir vocals also have a lot of vibrato in the old times. And I'm not very good at vibrato, so I kind of just like... I tried, at least. I tried. But yeah, after this choir, I decided not to end the music with the choir going in the last note, you know, because I also kind of wanted to show the orchestra a little bit more. This ending is not too usual with Disney intros, because listen to that. Listen how grand that ending is. That's not usual. Usually Disney intros would end more lightly, because after that it would kind of transition into the music. I decided, well, I'm not making a movie, I might as well end it like how they would end it in the end of the movie. So that's what I did. Now let's go into the vocals, which is the main reason I made this video in the first place. So I've always wanted to make something in the style of dreamy vintage Disney choirs. I've made tests in the past like Peter Pan and Pinocchio, but they always never sound accurate. Link in is in the description if you want to check it out. But yeah. And then yesterday I actually started thinking, Well, I guess it's impossible to make a decently accurate sounding Disney choir without, a real choir with actually good singers, And then I started experimenting with East-West Hollywood choirs. And I just randomly thought of the Thomas song. So that's what I did. I made a simple arrangement in a few minutes and just put "He's the number one" over here. And then I put some reverb with fast decay and a vinyl effect. This is what I got. Yeah, that sounds fake as fuck. Non-real singers, VSTs, ain't gonna cut it. We need real voices. And then just as a test, I tried to record my vocals even though I'm sick, and I was trying to imitate a vintage female voice and their accent or whatever. I always find that vintage choirs have that kind of accent, they say it like sort of nasally, like "He's the number one" instead of "He's the number one." Something like that. I don't know. I've just noticed that with vintage choirs, but I tried that, and while I was recording this, I was 99% sure that it was just gonna sound 100 times worse than the East-West Hollywood choir thing I did. Like, seriously, think about it. What good could come out of just one dude who also has a bad cold trying to do a female voice? Yeah, you know what? Let's see what good could come out from that. He's your number one. You know what? It's not bad, but it's pretty mid in my opinion. Okay, but what would it sound like if I put a chorus effect to double the voices? He's your number. Okay, that sounds terrible now. I just sound underwater. But the big thing came when I decided to actually stop being lazy and really record a second take for the second layer to double the voices instead of using a chorus effect, which is the easy way out. So these 4-part harmony voices will be doubled and re-recorded. And I was like, holy shit, it's actually not bad. Like, it doesn't sound perfect, but it's 100 times better than what I thought it would sound like. And get this, if you just get like small snippets of this, like, it actually almost sounds accurate enough to fool me for a second. Yes, all of this is completely raw with no pitch correction, coming from a modern condenser microphone. Like, get this, I'm already aware that if you double the voices, it can sort of hide a lot of imperfections in the pitch, but I was definitely not expecting it to actually make it even more of what I was going for. And it turns out it can also sort of hide the imperfections in the sound of the voice itself and the accent. And I'm also surprised that this even turned out decently, since I have zero experience with classical training and all that shit. Everything I learned in music was all just self-taught over the course of many years of experimenting. So really, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing here. I think the only part that's a little more weak is the just the male part. So this part. Like, I feel like I could clearly tell that this is just my voice. But for this part especially, and especially if you not isolate that and have everything in the mix, like, that sounds just like Disney from the 1940s. Like, see, this is a real Disney chorus. And then here's mine. See, it doesn't sound perfect, but it's kind of close, actually. It really does sound like this is like lost media from the 1940s, and I'm really happy about it. That's really what I was going for. But yeah, hopefully you like the music, and hopefully you like the explanation as well. Like, it can only get better and more accurate from here. But yeah, very big progress. Yeah, basically my goal is to make very accurate sounding old music to the point where even a professional would get fooled by this. I think I'm getting there. So yeah, I guess that's about it. That's all I have to say.